There is one thing that DoorDash drivers can do that is commonly ignored to help you get more orders. And in this video, I'm going over that tip. Firstly, let me welcome you here to the channel. This channel is dedicated to your success in this gig economy, this side hustle. So if you are new here, consider subscribing. I've driven both part-time and full-time for DoorDash. 1,400 completed deliveries coming to you from San Diego. Now, firstly, going over the basics, because I want to make sure you know those too, it's being in the right areas as far as waiting for an order, signing up for the right marketplaces, ignoring the highest peak pay, if that means you're not going to get orders. That's researching hotspots, knowing that different hotspots perform differently. And it's looking at your dollars to mile ratio when you get a request. How much am I getting paid for the miles driven? Okay, great. That's a 60-second crash course on the basics. The one thing that drivers are ignoring is what I'm calling the Shift Audible. You can use this anytime during your shift. Once you first went online, you can use it during the middle of your shift or upcoming on the end of your shift. The Shift Audible, simply put, is when you end your dash. Yes, simply put, you're going to end your dash. You're going to stop driving. But moreover than that, we're doing that because we're going offline in our scheduled zone because we're now physically in a new zone that we were originally not scheduled in. So if I'm in market A, right, I'm scheduled in market A, let's say from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. If I have an order that pulls me outside of market A, now I'm in market B. When am I going to use this Shift Audible? Well, let's back up a second, because before you even go online at all for that scheduled shift, I want you to look at the entire marketplace and make note when and where are there any peak pay bonuses. And I say that, and I want you to make note of that, or even just screenshot the homepage with those peak pay bonuses, because once you're online in your scheduled shift, you can no longer see what the entire marketplace is doing. Now, yes, you'll be able to see it once you actually end your dash, but I want you to use that research because you may not want to end your dash. Let's go over that. So when should you do this Shift Audible? When should you end the dash in the current scheduled zone because you're now in a new zone and you want to go online there? When should you do that? One of the best case scenarios for this Shift Audible is I've been pulled too far away from market A. If you're, I'd say, 15 minutes into market B, it may be a better idea just to go offline, end the shift from market A, and go online with market B. Now note, I said about 15 minutes. If you're 3 minutes, 5 minutes away from market A, you might just want to go back to market A. Because here's situation number 2, peak pay differences between that market A and market B. And here's circling back to why we need to do that research ahead of time. Because if you don't know what market B is offering as far as peak pay, maybe market A has a $3 peak pay and you go offline to go online in market B just to find out, well, there's actually 0 peak pay in market B. So I would only really consider this Shift Audible when, number 1, you may get pulled too far away from market A, and then number 2, there's comparable peak pay between market A and market B. Now this is going to come back to you a bit because maybe you can still make great money. Maybe you can do just fine with a $3 peak pay in market A and maybe a $0 peak pay in market B. Maybe you can still make great money. Situation number 3 is exactly what I did on my most recent shift. I got pulled into market B, but the peak pay and or my shift was ending. So by the time I drove back into market A, I basically wouldn't have had any time left on the peak pay. So since I was in market B, it would have taken too long to drive back to market A to try to get an order, to try to get that peak pay. I just did the Shift Audible. I went offline, I ended my dash, I went online in the new marketplace so I could get a peak pay order. And you can see here, it paid off. I immediately got an order in the new zone. So let's just quickly review. When should you consider the Shift Audible? Number 1, you're pulled too far away from your scheduled zone. Number 2, the 2 zones that you're now comparing have pretty comparable peak pay bonuses, or you know you can still make pretty good money in either zone. And at number 3, your shift is ending and you don't necessarily have time to get back to market A. So now I want to go over some questions or maybe some potential problems with this strategy. Just to make things clear, off the bat, I have combed over the DoorDash terms of service, the deactivation policy. At the time of filming this video, there's nothing in there that would indicate that you'd be penalized from DoorDash for doing this strategy. Next is a big one because it would cause a massive headache for you as a driver. So whenever you end your dash in market A, there is no guarantee that market B is even going to be busy enough for you to go online. Remember, this strategy is going to count on the fact that yes, I can end my dash no problem in market A, but it's really assuming that market B is busy enough to go online using the Dash Now feature. Now, having said that, if you're a top dasher, top dashers have the ability to go online at any time in the marketplace that they're in. So that may be a benefit. If you are a top dasher, you don't have to worry about that. It being busy enough, you can still go online. So now let's bring this strategy back in and discuss how this gets you more orders. Well, let's think about number one, what prevents you from even getting orders? Well, easy answer is it's just not busy enough, and that's right. But number two, it's wasting time. It's not getting an order because you're not in the right place. So this is going to help you with that because technically you're not in the right place if you're 15 minutes outside of market A. But you can basically instantly be in the right place by ending market A, going online in market B. And also keep in mind, there may be a good amount of miles and the time invested if you're driving back 15 minutes from market B back to market A. Lastly, let me talk about why I do this so rarely. Actually, it's been so rare that after 1,400 deliveries, I can't remember the last time I did this Shift Audible. I think this comes back to just selecting smart orders. So when you're driving in market A, I wouldn't even accept orders that take you 15, 18 minutes outside of market A. Because especially if you like the peak pay in market A, or you just want to drive in market A, you're in essence going to have to double order miles because you're going to have to drive back in to that scheduled zone. So think about that. I would use this Shift Audible just really as a back pocket strategy. If you do want to use this strategically, you'll say, okay, well, I do want to accept this order. It's taking me further out of market A. Normally I wouldn't accept it, but I'm going to try to accept it because the new marketplace that I'm going to is typically pretty busy and or they're offering a strong peak pay. I'm going to try the Shift Audible when I get there. So if you got value in this video, definitely drop me a like, and you can also click or tap the screen now for my most recent video, as well as a video recommended for you, and I'll see you in the next one.